Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with our favourite football analyst, Gareth, to run the rule over the Aston Villa Brentford game in the final game of the summer series. We couldn't quite clinch the title in the summer series and get our first trophy of the season, but we still managed to leave unbeaten and learnt a lot from those three games. So, Gareth, great to see you again. How is everything going, my man?
Very well, very well. Thank you, Rich. Yeah, it was a good. I mean, it was a decent enough game. I thought we did all right. Again, pre-season games, as we all know, are a bit difficult. And like me and you talked about just off air there, you're looking at the first sort of 55, 60 minutes. And then after that, putting some other players in, maybe sort of fringe players, squad players, like Bailey, like Coutinho, for instance. So, yeah, that's basically where we're at, I think. Unlucky to not do it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that we're talking about players of that caliber at this moment in time being almost fringe players, and I had to pinch myself when we made like four substitutions in that second half, and I think it was Tielemans, Coutinho, uh, Tielemans, Coutinho, Bailey, and I think maybe Mings or something. It was just crazy. Like so I'm sorry, Mings started, but the quality of the bench at the moment is just ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. It's sort of a funny situation, really, isn't it? Because sort of back under the Gerrard era, we'd have seen Coutinho starting every game, come what may, really, and Leon possibly. But yeah, slightly
I
disappointing.
think it might have been Buendia that might have been on the bench, but yeah. It's yeah, I agree. There's some. We'll get onto it a bit later in terms of that latter part of the game, and maybe some players not necessarily grabbing their chance as yet. But I just thinking back to like towards the end of last season when I think Emery was scared to bring one or two players on, barring like the first substitution, and now we've got, it's starting to build into a good squad without maybe one or two other additions that we've talked about needing, but certainly it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about a manager maximising what he's getting out of the squad that he got for last season, we can't. Surely he's got to be right up there as the number one sort of ranking manager for that. Considering what we were at. But yeah, it's a tricky situation, really. It's a funny sort of time of year where you're sort of creeping towards the start of the season. You need to start getting business done. You're a little bit hurrying along, sort of thing, but you still got games that you've got to try and manage as well. So it'd be interesting to see how we get. The next couple of games are going to be really telling, I think.
Yeah. And I'd say we'll get your thoughts on those coming up in a bit. First of all, I just want a quick shout out to the pod. We are 2,000, over 2,100, well over that now, and we're on the road to 3K. It's going to be a squeeze to get it in before the start of the season. However, our target was to get to 2K before the start of the season, so we've massively overachieved on that. But if you guys can help us by liking and subscribing to the channel, help us grow, help us to push to 3K, that would be absolutely amazing. So, Gareth, what we talked before the show really about what the first 55 60 minutes are kind of a real match in these preseason games, and what we've also learning is, and you're going to highlight in a little while, is the different formations or different shapes that we can get into as a team now in and out of possession. We had the indications of it last season, but now we're seeing even more flexibility in these formations as the players get used to Emery's style.
Yeah, I think I tweeted about it during the game quite a bit, and trying to give a little bit of insight from an analyst perspective, sort of really is more not as just as a fan, but more as an analyst perspective and what we might be looking for, what he might be looking for. We don't know that for sure, of course, but yeah, one of my main sort of talking points really was that how fluid we were. Much more fluid in the transitions going from front to back, from defence, to with the ball. It was really sort of interesting how we sort of saw the different shapes in different parts of the position in the
Yeah.
pitch in different phases of the game. Yeah, it was quite interesting.
Yeah. Well, let's go through. So let's look at the first one here. So you've got, I guess, what are you noticing here in terms of how we're setting up?
Yeah, so we're just looking sort of like as a vice versa of what we would look at if Moreno was in the team. So, Powell would probably, in Moreno, would obviously be high on the left. Cash would sort of tuck in where Consa's position is there. But for this example, we're looking at Villa sort of, if they had the ball at the back, say, with Tyrone Mings. So that's the positions that we're looking at. We're looking at Louisa McGinn in the 2-8 positions, Kamara sort of centrally, Cash high, sort of reasonably high on the right-hand side, we might say, but Diaby tucked in with Watkins and Bidace wide on the side, almost making a front three, if you like.
Yeah, and like you say, vice versa. The quite one that's quite familiar to Villa supporters at the moment, but obviously with the flip side that Cash is pushing up on the right hand side instead of Moreno would have done on that left. And I guess just on this one, would you expect Emery to kind of chop and change for different games? Obviously, Moreno's not probably back until end of August, but could you see him like when both Moreno and Cash are fit? Like 1 week playing with Cash pushing up and Pau Torres at left back maybe, and then the next week Moreno forward and Cash either staying back or Konsa being in that right back position.
Yeah, I think the latter. I think Konsa will be in that right. I think that was the better option. I think Cash, although he was an attacking right back in that game, you didn't see him really cross the ball like Moreno. He doesn't really sort of try to take players on or get to the byline. He's more sort of like to sit there as that extra man on that right-hand side and allow others sort of more inside or behind him to come onto the ball. Whereas Moreno is obviously more of a full-on attacking fullback. So, yeah, we might see something a bit different. There's going to be times where, especially away from home and in Europe, against the better sides, we're going to have to be really solid. And I think that's where we won't see Cash maybe in the side. It will be Concert right back, and we'll see a more sort of solid back shape maybe. But yeah, again, interesting to see. But Cash is not that right back that Moreno is, and I think that's where another right back, a more attacking option right back, could come in to compete with Cash for the same position, just in different roles.
Yeah, I guess what was pleasing though, I know Moreno's only been in for half a season really, but I don't believe he's scored yet. And Cash has got that ability to strike the ball or cut in on his left foot and finish. So as demonstrated, so they've both got different qualities, haven't they? But again, good to have options, and I do think he does need that bit of competition.
Yeah, I think to be fair, I'm not taking anything away from Matty Cash.
Yeah.
I think to be fair, he's stuck himself right in it. We can see in pre-season that he's really sort of working really hard, and the performances that he's put in have been really, really good sort of thing. Whether he's doing what's asked of him, we don't know that, but he's improved.
Yeah, definitely. So on to the next one, and this one's indicating more of a what was that be 4-1-4-1 formation or 4-1-2-3 maybe. And this one's got Diaby right out on that right hand side.
Yeah, we can argue all day about formations, and I think I've had these
Yeah.
arguments with people on Twitter all day. Yeah, probably more a 4-3-3 if you like, but more of a Kamara sort of sitting off deep. But the idea was to get sort of Diaby and Philogene wide, and this is in different phases of the game. The players were very different in different phases of the game. This is more of a sort of possibly if Brentford had the ball at the back, we're looking at more of a sort of we're pushing up a little bit higher, sort of a mid block if you like, but Cash is back in that right back position, and the front three are covering across that top of the pitch there.
Yeah. That and I guess when Brentford have the ball, that does allow us to utilise those players with the pace of Diaby and Philogene Bidace and Watkins as well to really put that pressure on, and then it allows the players behind them to move up as a unit, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it's really difficult to sort of, without showing clips and videos, it's really hard to get across the different positions and what's being asked of players in certain phases of the game, really.
Yeah. Well, when we get the Premier League back, which isn't far away, we will obviously have the still images, the match of the day style analysis back. But this is fantastic anyway, mate. So don't worry too much about that. Now, this part of the play you really wanted to focus on, because this is what maybe caused a little bit of controversy on Twitter. But also something that I noticed as well, and I believe the pundits noticed that Villa were trying to go through the middle, and at some points were forcing it, but it was clearly a strategy that Emery wanted for us to utilise.
Yeah, obviously, like you say, I got a bit of flack for it, as people might have seen, but the first sort of 20 minutes of the game, this is what was trying to happen. It was more sort of like Louise dropping a little bit deeper alongside Kamara, and they were then trying to force the ball into centres, like we saw against Fulham and like we saw against Newcastle. It's a familiar pattern in some phases of the game. it didn't work. And obviously I got a little bit of flack for tweeting that it didn't work, because later on I said eventually it did end up happening. And this is the reasons as to why. Luiz ended up pushing higher alongside McGinn, leaving Kamara on his own, which provided that extra hybrid, if you like, an 8, if you like, with Luiz and McGinn in those 8 positions. And Torres was then free to force that ball into central areas. And this is what was trying to happen. It was Luiz rotating with McGinn, rotating with Watkins, each dropping deep. If one dropped deep, the other 2 go. And it worked because it was tweaked later on in the game. It was sort of, midway through the first half. And that's what happened. And that's why we sort of came back into the game, because that slight little tweak happened where Torres was able to sort of find those central passes rather than Luiz and Kamara next to each other. And there wasn't the space to then be able to do that. But they changed it and it worked.
Well, we know how Brentford play, and we know how physical they are and how imposing they are in that kind of, well, right across the back line, but particularly in that with the central defenders and those maybe 2 holding midfielders. So it's obviously, if you don't create that overload in that area, or at least match them man for man, they're just gonna block it anyway. They're just going to fit and physically impose themselves on you anyway. So, yeah, I think it was good that they saw that quickly. And obviously, the way that Conte stepped in and obviously scored the goal that he did, maybe helped to kind of take the pressure off that a little bit. But yeah, it's something that we're going to be used to seeing. Like that's, Thomas Frank and Unai Emery are both managers that like to change and do things throughout the game. We saw the whole tactics board with Thomas Frank in that drinks break, telling them what to do, where to go, how to change it up. And, that's what we're going to be, used to seeing, like different formations and different tactical tweaks throughout the game.
Yeah, like I say, yeah, you're very sort of opposition dependent. You're preparing before the game to do that, and like you've nailed it. Brentford very strong in central areas. Sort of the spine of the team is very good. Especially in the centre of that midfield, and you're trying to sort of play through that, but you've got to add an extra man in possession. But then also you've got to be careful if the ball turned over, and that's where we got caught, as we know, a couple of times. So that's the negative of that. So pushing Luiz high, yes, it made the extra man offensively, but it also left us a little bit vulnerable, maybe defensively. So catch-22.
Yeah. Now, one thing that I think Villa fans are really pleased to see is the number of players that we're getting in and around the box and into the box. And I guess this comes with the confidence that they've got in Emery's system, the quality of the player that we now possess, and we're obviously seeing that pay off at the moment, certainly in pre-season with the number of chances, number of goals we're scoring, and this kind of attacking formation is really, really good to see.
Yeah, this is the sort of shape we were looking at if the ball's with Matty Cash, let's say, and we're playing in and around the Brentford box, and a lot of rotations between sort of Watkins, Diaby, Luiz and McGinn, in and out. If one goes in again, one goes out. It was really sort of good but it was really in compact sort of tight areas. And even Philogene Bidace was coming in off that left-hand side, not really looking to keep the width that much if we had the ball. If the ball was sort of moved across, of course he would move out. But yeah, we're looking at sort of Ming central and Powell and Konsa able to sort of add those extra men in that thing. But again, we talk about the high line. This is again what we've got to be a bit sort of wary of.
Yeah, well, a couple of times, obviously Newcastle did it. Fulham not so much, but Brentford definitely, where it was literally get a clearance, get a heady clearance. If the midfielder picked it up and could control it, they got their head up and just played one long ball. And with the pace of Mbeumo up top and one or two of the others and Wissa, they were causing us problems, and that's going to be the case for a lot of teams that are going to come up against us.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly that. And what you're looking at, sort of, you just put that back up there, it's just quickly, yeah. And we're looking at, if the ball is turned over, say with the goalkeeper, sort of the let's say Fulham's goalkeeper, they're looking at hitting someone, a centre forward that's probably sitting on Tyrone Mings there, and you're looking to then get runners in behind Powell and Konsa. So yeah, you've got to be careful. But sweeper keeper Martinez, that's what we need.
Yeah. He certainly loves it as well. He loves that role. And then the last one is kind of the old faithful now, where the players seem really drilled in this area. Is, I guess, when we go two goals up, or when we're slightly under the cosh, or towards the end of a game, we're likely to be able to see this kind of 6 at the back formation, like shutting down any spaces.
Yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first time we might have seen this pre-season. I'm
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
I'm not sure we've seen it before, so it was interesting to see. But Brentford with the wide players and everything. But it was interesting. This is more sort of a situation where if Brentford have got the ball sort of on the halfway line, let's say, or around, in and around that area, and or even deeper in wide areas in front of Philogene with Jace or McGinn, for example. So we're looking at that 6 again, where Mings sort of drops into the sort of a more central position, Cash shuffles across, and etc. And it works. We can't deny that it doesn't sort of work. It's a really sort of compact. Sometimes it's more of a 6-2-2, if you like, with Watkins and Diaby pressing opposition centre backs. But more often than not, we saw Watkins dropping in to make that free, which I thought was a little bit different for me. I don't think we'd seen that sort of so much before. It was more of a 2, wasn't it, covering that off the air? And
Yeah,
Watkins dropping in. So yeah, a little bit of a tweak there, maybe.
yeah. But it certainly frustrates opposition, and it still allows us to spring players out on the break, and with that pace of Diaby, we can hurt teams with that one long ball as well. So that's teams are going to have to watch out for that as well.
Yeah, exactly
Yeah,
that, and I think that's what he's looking to try and do. Where Watkins was looking to get in behind with pace and power, now we're just looking at sort of pure pace on to break out. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that pans out.
yeah. So just generally, how have you felt that the summer series set of games that has gone for Villa, and would you suggest that Unai's learnt a lot about the squad and got a lot out of it?
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the best pre-season performances that I've seen, in a long time, to be honest. And I think you're playing against higher caliber opposition. You're playing against your peers almost, and I think that really makes a massive difference. No disrespect to the lower league teams, but we're not seeing sort of constant friendlies against Walsall or whatever. We've had one game. We're sort of playing a higher caliber opposition, and I think that has really played into Unai Emery's hands well, because he can test those players against the better players, really. But yeah, overall, pretty impressive. And I think the signings have settled in well. But I do think Tielemans has to start for me to be able to perform. I'm not saying he should be in the side, but to perform to the best of his ability. I don't think he's an impact substitute or anything like that. I think he performs better when he starts the game. And obviously, we've got a couple of others.
Yeah, well, he was fantastic against Fulham, wasn't he? And he played the whole game. And then, but I think one of the things that he might have picked up is that I guess all I think I'm trying to remember in any of the 3 games where substitutions that came on with like 20 minutes to go really hit the ground running. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 occasions, but everybody else really struggled to get into the game. Now that might be to do with the fact that the other team are making a lot of substitutions, so the game ends up being quite scrappy. It's hot out there. Maybe some of the players are tired. But also, I don't know whether it's to do with there's such a strict intricacy of the way Emery plays that sometimes when you bring a player on, sometimes it might take them a little bit more time to get used to like what they're how the structure of the game is going. I don't know whether you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I still got to worry over Bailey. For me, I can't. I'm not saying he looks disinterested, but I just don't see it. I don't see that he wants it enough almost. Coutinho, I'm not so sure about either. I mean, that was really hard to gauge them because they've just come back, I know. And I think Coutinho could be a player. I still think there's something there that little bit of experience, especially in Europe, that we might need. But I don't know whether he's got the trust in him. I just don't know whether he has. And Archer was decent for me, but again, is he up to the sort of the full rigors of what we're looking for? I don't know. But
Yeah, yeah.
Bailey for me is a big worry.
Yeah, well, I think you could probably, all Villa fans really want Archer to do it. Like we can see that he's got the ability in the Championship. It's just he's gonna probably play in, if he's gonna stick around the squad, he's probably gonna play Conference League, and he's probably gonna play the odd, cup games and maybe the odd 15, 20 minutes here or there. Is he going to be able to have that impact within that time? Like that's probably what Unai wanted to see. Same with a Bailey, same with a Buendia if he has to come on. Same with a Coutinho, and I guess that's one of the areas where he maybe needs to see more from his players and see, because so many games in the Premier League are decided from what you do from the bench. It's not necessarily what you do in the game.
And I think that's the case, not just the Premier League, Rich. I think that's the case across all competitions. You're looking to have a decent, and we've got a decent bench. But on that bench, if we're 2-1 down and we need a goal in the 88th, or 75th minute, we've got 50 minutes, who do you bring on that you think could get you a goal? There are players like Bailey, like Coutinho, like Archer, who could get you a goal. But do you trust them enough to be able to do that as opposed to someone else who you could possibly sign to come on and do that job? That's the big sort of question, I think.
Yeah. Well, 2 big friendlies to come in quick succession. We've got Lazio on Thursday evening, and then Valencia on Saturday. I think it's evening as well. How do you think Emery's going to approach those 2 games with them being so close together?
Yeah, I think we'll probably see a lesser side at Lazio against Lazio, and I think we'll probably see a stronger side against Valencia, because that is the sort of the closer, really, isn't it, to the season? Obviously, it's closer to the season opener. So I think we'll probably see a better team against Valencia, but it'd be interesting because they've not long been back from America. I think did they come back yesterday?
I know. Yeah, got back yesterday. I mean, if the jet lag hits them anything like it hit me, it doesn't come to you till 2 days later, at least like 2 or 3 days later. So
No,
yeah,
it
they're
may
going
be
to have
the
to be
case.
sorted there.
You'll see sort of more players like Revan and the youngs of this world sort of play more against Lazio. I don't know, but he's got to make it competitive, hasn't he? I guess so.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a tricky one.
Well, maybe Dendoncker might feature. Maybe Irigbonham might feature. I know he had a minor knock. Someone's saying he had a minor knock, and he probably would have gone to the States. So he might be still around, and then I guess 1 or 2 will go out on loan and stuff. But yeah, it is going to be interesting to see. And just finally, will they have like a behind closed doors next week, or will he just be like drilling them and training them for the season opener on the Saturday? Because it seems like you have a lot of games in close succession, and then you have like a full week then with nothing.
Yeah, no, they'll be working on shape and patterns and everything next week. I wouldn't have thought that they might do some 11v11s or 10v11s in training, but they've had a fair few games. I think they've had their fill, don't they? I think they'll be glad to have a bit of a rest for a few days. But yeah, no, I think it'll just be patterns and everything, shape and everything, your set piece routines and everything next week. So yeah, they probably need a couple of days off already, I'd have thought.
Yeah. I think so. It was definitely worthwhile. I think the summer series. I think all the teams involved in it. I think brought a really good little tournament to America, and I think all the teams got a lot out of it from what I could see from the game. So yeah, I think it was a really successful tournament and sets us up nicely for the new season.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thanks a lot, Gareth. Really, really good insight there. If you love what you see with the Villa Park Pod and you want to watch more shows like Gareth does, then hit that subscribe button and hit that like button to help us spread the word of the channel. Where can everyone find you, my man? I know you are causing controversy all the time on Twitter, but yeah, you still do it.
Completely unintentionally, I must say. Yeah, find me at that Garage AJC. Yeah.
Brilliant, mate. Brilliant. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Like I said before, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We will be back with a special show later on this week with Tom Colomasi from the Daily Mail. So I've got a really good interview with him, insight on the transfer news, the signings that we've made, and the football medium in general. So do make sure you look out for that. We'll have match previews and match reaction to the latest friendlies and the season build up. So don't miss out. But once again, thank you for watching. And as always, remember, we'll follow the Villa. Thanks, everyone.